This is the Book Deal Podcast,
where you will discover the inspiring stories of the authors behind your favourite books.
No matter what stage of writing you are at, we've got you covered. I'm Tina Strachan.
And I'm Madeline Cleary, and join us as we pull back the curtain of published authors.
One deal at a time.
The Book Deal Podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters which it's recorded on, and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging.
Hello and welcome to the Book Deal Podcast. My name is Tina Strachan, and in this episode I will be interviewing the kidlit powerhouse Bethany Loveridge. Bethany is a champion of children's literature and has not only recently spearheaded a graphic novel-specific publishing house called Perenti Press, but she's also a debut author with her middle grade novel Harper Renegade Timeline Officer out within days of this episode going to air. Bethany has a wealth of knowledge for all authors and shares many tips and advice to help you with your publication journey. It's an episode not to be missed. Bethany Loveridge, thank you so much for joining me on the Book Deal Podcast.
I'm really happy to be talking to you, Tina. Thank you.
Oh, look, it's taken us a little while to line up this interview, but I'm so glad we finally have, and we've made it work. And it's probably been a blessing though, because we're ending up recording like days before your debut book hits the shelves.
9 days.
9 days and counting, yeah. But we'll get into that. And I've got so much that I want to get into with you, Bethany. And I know the listeners are really going to enjoy this episode because you have so much to offer them. You are most definitely an industry professional, especially in the kidlit space. And I think you're absolutely in your moment right now, Bethany. Do you think?
Oh, well, I'm having a moment. Hey, I think this is a great a period of breakthrough. It's a bit dizzying almost. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, and I think it's just the start too. I think if things are just going to get better and better for you. So
well, that's very kind, Tina. I'll take that. I'll take it.
Just remember we were friends when you're at your dizzying heights.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you're very well known in the kidlit world, especially here in Southeast Queensland. But your resume now includes years as an arts educator within schools. You are an award-winning author and illustrator, a 2025 debut crewer with 2 book series and a picture book signed. You are a champion of Love Oz MG, the newly appointed state leader of SCWBI, or the Society of Children's Writers and Book Illustrators for the Australian East region. Mm-hmm. And just this year, you have announced your brand new publishing house specialising in graphic novels, Perenti Press. And you're also a mum, and you've got young kids. And so, Bethany, I think my first question for you is, do you ever sleep?
I told you I was feeling dizzy. Yeah, I do like sleeping a lot.
You would need a big rest after all of that. So obviously I have many, many questions for you and lots to ask you that I know our listeners will find very, very helpful. And yes, and we've got to try and fit it all in. So perhaps first, Bethany, because we love a good publication story here on the podcast, can you please tell us and take us on the journey with you from the moment you first started writing the very first moment.
Wow.
I can see you.
Okay. Yep.
To everything you did in between that took you up to actually signing your first book deal.
The best part about this is you told me that we've got, less than half an hour. And this is the first question. Just describe my journey.
Take
all right.
time.
I'll take you back 10 years ago, Tina. And actually, heck, I'll take you back.
Please
30.
Do.
I'm going to take you back 30 years. Hey, I grew up when computers were like really fat and I had a standing tower next to them, and the internet was dial up, and if anyone rang the phone while you were trying to ring up, you'd be disconnected.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s. But in the 90s, I started writing my first story on one of those old computers. Now, I think it was probably inspired by C.S. Lewis upon reflection, but essentially it was called That Moss Should Grow, which I thought was really poetic. And it was
That is
about it.
poetic.
Yeah, thank you. I might yet write it.
I know.
It was about this little girl who licked some moss on the side of a waterfall and traveled into a fantasy world. So,
I love that.
hey, that was probably going to be a bestseller, but my tiny sister at the time flicked a little curious switch at the back of the computer and blew a fuse and I think we're the big floppy disks. I think yeah, that was the only way of saving anything at that time, and I had not saved my masterpiece. So but I'm sure it was great. Anyway, so that was 30 years ago. Let's go 10 years ago now. Somewhere in the however many years in between. I didn't even try and maths that for you.
It's fine.
20. I think I sort of like forgot that I could be a writer, or that was a thing that people could do as a job. I think at school we think, well, we could be a teacher or a doctor or a marine biologist, and you're a child of the 90s, so you would know that those were the three jobs you could do.
Marine biologist, that's what I was doing.
That you were doing that one,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I became a teacher. So and it was something that happened when I was having some time off work as a teacher, and I kind of discovered that the only way to write a book is actually to write it, which sounds like just the silliest thing. And the only reason why some people are authors is because they wrote a book. I mean, mind-blowing stuff, isn't it? So I did. I wrote this awful YA. It was about 75,000 words. Really awful. But I wrote all the words of it, and it came to the end, and I wrote the end, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's how you write a book. Like,
the biggest step,
stuff.
isn't it? It's the biggest step. Yeah.
And it was trash, and that's fine. That's fine.
It's part of the process.
So, but then in 2020, about the middle of the year, I was off teaching again. Here you go. There's a theme here. And I had this dream about a Wallamai pine, which is a tree that features throughout this story and this trilogy. That's my debut. Because I read an article about this tree that they call the dinosaur tree that disappeared from our fossil records, and they thought was totally extinct and didn't exist, that a hiker found in the Blue Mountains, like hidden in between sandstone cliffs, hidden from the elements, had somehow survived and like outlived so many species of plants and animals, right? And I just thought, what a magical tree. And I had this dream about the fact that this tree had been so eternal, could mean or might mean that it could access through the fiber of the earth, like Australia's timeline. Obviously, that's very scientific. And when I woke up the next day, I wrote 7,000 words, the first 7,000 words of this story. So that's great. And we could all aspire to have dreams that make us wake up and write 7,000 words. So they were also bad, and none of them are in the final book. But what I did with those 7,000 words is I entered a Kill Your Darlings mentorship program. And for some reason, Leanne Hall, who's a phenomenal children's author, wanted to work with me, which was incredible. So with Leanne in 2021, we finished the first draft. I mean, I wrote it, but she was there. She taught me lots of amazing things, like the fact that you can write 5 chapters to work your way into the story. But Bethany, I'm sorry, your story actually only starts in chapter 5. You need to delete all of that. And also to write with kindness. She's an incredibly kind and empathetic person, and I think that has strengthened my stories. But anyway, so I finished a draft with Leanne's guidance, and I started submitting. It was way too early to do that. I sent everywhere all over the world, that, as we do, because we don't know what we're doing. And I joined Right Links about that time, which is, if you are in Queensland, or more specifically probably Brisbane, then you might know of Right Links, who are a fabulous critique group and supportive organisation that meet monthly, swap pages, very special group of people. And I also entered the Australian Society of Authors and Copyright Agency award mentorship program, and Christina Schultz became my mentor, and I got one of those. So anyway, so I rewrote the whole thing again. uh, through that process. And then sent it out to some other places, as you do. And then I got lucky enough to be shortlisted for a Varuna residency with it. And I went to Varuna for a week and I rewrote the whole thing because I decided it needed to be present tense. And I remember I had this assessment with Luna Sue, who's one of the people who I've got in my acknowledgements. She's from Hardy Grant. That's not who published my book. But I had this assessment with her and I was like, do you like, is it supposed to be first person or third person or present tense or past? It's like, what's going on? And she just kind of looked at me and she was like, can you just stop wasting your time? Like, it's cooked. Just stop.
Mm.
And I think that was like July 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it off to Wombat Books Open, like slush.
Treasure pile, is
Yeah,
it? That's what
sorry.
Luna calls it? Treasure.
Yeah, she calls it something like that.
Yeah.
Treasure trove or
pile of opportunity.
Yeah, I need to stop calling it a slush.
Yeah.
It's awful. Anyway, so Rochelle picked it up out of that and it was still out there. It was still on submission to a few places, but Rochelle was so excited and it all happened really quickly. And I mean, I told you the day I signed the contract. So cheeky. Because that was CYA the next year. So
yeah.
And in that same kind of moment, Rochelle signed another trilogy, a junior fiction trilogy, with me as well. So is that enough of a story? Like, there's a lot there.
That's an incredible story. There is a lot there, but
well, do you know, it's less than 50,000 words, but I reckon I've in the process have written about 200,000 unique words to get to that story. And lots of rejection and tears mostly because it was underbaked.
Until when you started submitting
when I started submitting,
It's not an uncommon story though for unpublished authors, to send too early or to write like 4 times as many words as what actually ends up in there. It's almost like the natural evolution of a completed and finished and well-rounded book in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is a trilogy, and so it's probably about 5 years almost of writing this first one, but the second one, a matter of months.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing. So, and given that you've outlined all the things too many things I do with my life, I really, really hate wasting time. So I'm kind of like at a stage now where if I'm working on a project, I will make sure every minute that I have to write counts, because otherwise I'll be angry with myself. I'm not suggesting that's healthy. I'm just saying.
Same though, I get a bit panicky. I'm like, must spend this time. So given that you don't like to waste time, does that mean that you're a bit of a plotter?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. I can't believe I haven't asked you that before. How do I not know that about you?
Do I seem like wild and creative? Like maybe I just pants it? Do I have that kind of vibe?
I am adamant that we all do the same. We all do the same thing. If you pants it, you end up doing some sort of plotting situation at the end to fix all the issues.
Yeah.
But you pants. Let's call it pants. The first iteration?
Oh yeah, totally. I didn't know what was happening in that story, and I didn't know how to write a book. So I would write chapter by chapter and read it to my daughter and my long-suffering husband and sort of get their response. And then and I was working with those 2 mentors that I mentioned who gave great guidance, which was probably even better than plotting. But yeah, now I will. I mean, I'm not a super micro plotter or anything. I'm sure there's like levels of plotters, but I will dream about something for a number of weeks, and I have notebooks around the house, and I will like write down an idea, or I'll draw a picture because obviously love illustration as well. So I'll draw something like might be an aspect of the world that's fantastical, or a character or something. And I'll never look at those again. But there's something about like the pen and the pen to paper that kind of puts it in your brain anyway, more so than like any note I send on a phone or in a document. And after I've dreamt about it, thought about it for a couple of weeks, then I will do like a chapter outline where I'll have like a couple of sentences per chapter all the way from beginning to end, make sure that stakes are high enough, make sure the ending is happy, hopeful. And then before I start,
yeah, I like that.
yeah. So that's probably not like I've seen what some people do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm impressed, but
yeah, no, but I think that's important because, and also I think the key to that as well is that you've spent all this time thinking about it. Like I know some people literally open up a blank page with no idea what's going to come out or where it's going, and then just pants their way through like that. But and you sound like the same as me. I don't do that until I actually have basically the whole story in my head, almost like a book that's already written or a movie that's already written. It's all there.
yeah.
And so when I open up that blank page, I know where it's sort of headed, and it can change, but I basically know where it's going to go and how it's going to end. And yeah, some of those exciting scenes are in your head already.
Whole secondary storylines will appear that you didn't know were going to appear, or and the characters really gain their personalities as you're writing.
Yeah.
More than any other way. Although with this first trilogy, I did another Kill Your Darlings writing for middle grade online course that Danielle Binks had put together. And so I did do a lot of like character profiling and sort of like following along with that. I went on the stock image websites and found like pictures of my characters, and I kind of had them in my mind then. But now I probably don't do that as much.
Yeah, well now it's all up in your mind. That's kind of like doing your research, right? Before you do your writing, which a lot of people spend years researching sometimes, don't they, before they start writing anything?
Yeah, well, historical fiction.
Yes.
And the most frustrating thing about that is you kind of like, my story features Edith Cow, and this one, the next one is Constance Stone. Like these are historical Australian females. So much research, and then if you kind of try and put in any of that on the page, it's boring. So I mean, it's really tricky to kind of like show that you have researched something without writing, and in 1921 on this day, anyway.
So do you write first and then insert or try and find the right bit of historical research that fits the story that you're writing? Or do you actually get all the research first and then sort of base your story around what you've found out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I recently wrote something different, that I had decided I wanted the character to be an apprentice wagon builder. And I watched a whole lot of videos about how to make wagons on YouTube and like, medieval society, whatever's. And got a book about it, and all of that was before I started writing, I think, because I wanted to understand, I wanted to really understand the world before I started writing. I probably I might leave out a tiny detail, like if I was writing something and I wanted to, there was a flow happening, but I wanted to write about a house and I didn't know whether the houses were made out of brick or what. I might write, come back, and then make a review note in the Word document to say, actually find out what the answer to this is.
Yeah. No, I like that.
But other than that, like big stuff is that's part of the story, that will be before.
So you're talking about your debut novel out in just 9 days. So Harper Wells, Renegade Timeline Officer. And congratulations, Bethany, especially being like it's the first full, apart from your marvelous moss licking book when you were 10. But
that was never finished.
That was never finished. There's always time. There's time. There's something really special about publishing pretty much that first book that you really put all that thought and effort into, because I think sometimes our hearts are with those ones, and it feels very special. So can you tell us a little bit about Harper Wells? It's the Renegade Timeline Officer. So this is the first book in the trilogy. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? You said that you had a dream and that's what initiated it. Can you tell us about the first book and a little bit about the other books that are to come?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about it. So Harper Wells is a 12-year-old girl who lives with her father, who is equally overbearing and absent somehow, and a really annoying older brother, which
Based
So
on your brother at all?
well, I was going to say that, and
Mm.
then I thought, oh no, don't say that. Look, I love my brother. He's one of my best friends. But my childhood experience with my brother certainly
Mm.
inspired the brother character. But her family is like that because her mother, who used to work at State Museum, disappeared, went to work and disappeared, didn't come back. And the father is kind of still looking for clues and trying to find her. Um, she was a plant scientist working at the museum, and the father is an artist, so they work together. Anyway, so she has this kind of interesting family dynamic, and her response, even though she kind of doesn't know it, her response to her mother missing is a bit of anxiety. So she, that's prevalent throughout the story as well. And how she deals with that. Also did a lot of research into that. But anyway, so this is the family dynamic. My character, to Harry or Harper, she goes to an op shop. She's finally getting her own room away from her brother. She finds a bed. It's kind of ugly and heavy, and she makes her dad and her brother take it home for her. And it's made out of walnut pine and is a time traveling device. So that's the setup for the story. And in the first book, she meets Edith Cowan, who is Australia's first female parliamentarian. But when Edie was Edie Brown, so she's 7 years old, she's just been shafted to a boarding house, and not long after that, her father is hanged because he shoots his wife. Anyway, so Edie has this fully tumultuous childhood, which is very interesting and important part of the story. Essentially, Harry just goes back and makes friends with Edie because they're lovely girls, and but she gets busted by the timeline agency who own the beds, who control the Australian timeline, and she's just like breaking all the constitutional rules. So you shall not go back and talk to people in the past, like the number one rule. And so she has to pretend to be a timeline officer. So she doesn't get terminated, aka knocked off. And so there's a bit of danger, and she finds out that a lot of timeline officers have been kidnapped, and so she goes on a rescue mission to try and find the rightful owner of her bed and the reason why her bed ended up in the op shop in the first place, even though she doesn't really want to give up her bed because she loves it. I think I'm probably supposed to give you like a pithy 2-sentence pitch in answer to that question, and I just took you on another journey. In the interest of making this a half an hour interview. But yeah, so it's very it was important to me to kind of celebrate Australian historical females. In the second book, Constance Stone, she's Australia's first female medical doctor. She had to travel to America to study. I've given those historical women very different kind of personalities, which is my license to do that as a historical fiction author, and has been really fun. And then in the third one, she meets Jessie Hickman, who was a notorious bushranger, female bushranger who hid in the Wollemi National Park. So obviously lots more danger and excitement and action in the third one. So I'm kind of doing all the genres. Like there's historical fiction in all of them. Lots of probably adventure and thrill in the first one. The second one's a bit more of a mystery, and the third one there's going to be a showdown. Look, I haven't written the third one yet, Tina, but it's going to be great. It's going to tie everything all together perfectly.
I bet. Yeah, well, it'll wrap up all those ends. And how can you go wrong with a female bushranger, I have to say.
I know.
That sounds incredible.
Cool.
It sounds incredible. I'm so excited. And I can see why Wombat snapped it up as soon as they got a hold of it, because it just sounds incredible, and it's going to do amazing things. Well done, Bethany.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited. It's all a bit like surreal as well, isn't it? I mean, I'm asking you that question because you've also part of the debut crew, and you just kind of like
only a few months ahead of you. So yes, it is a pretty incredible experience. So Harper Wells is middle grade, and that's, you write middle grade. You've got a picture book signed as well, but
I have two picture books coming out next year.
Sorry, two.
Oh, sorry.
I cannot keep up. Yes.
Well, I'm very excited about both of them. The first one coming out at the beginning of the year with Little Book Press is illustrated by Chris Kennett, and that will be like fun and silly and amazing. And a funny story about that is that I wrote that story in like a day. I just had this idea and just wrote this story. came so easily. Picture book, so like 350 words. And I thought it was going to be the first one published. And I had this, because Harper got brought forward a year, because it was supposed to be next year originally. And so my first book was going to be this picture book that I love and is fun, but like not the labor of love, So it's worked out well for me that Harper Wells is the first book. It's very correct. And then my second picture book coming out just before Father's Day with Wombat is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of an homage to being a creative child who wants to share their creativity all over your walls. And
I'm Jessica Mansour-Nahra, and Hachette Australia is publishing my debut novel called The Farm. The Farm comes out on Tuesday, the 26th of August, and I'm so excited to bring this Australian Gothic thriller to readers all over. The Farm concerns my main character, Layla, an independent 37-year-old woman from Sydney who unfortunately suffers a serious health tragedy. And it sends her into a deep level of depression. She unfortunately can't recover the way she had hoped to. And so her concerned and loving partner, James, says to her, let's go and spend a year away from Sydney at my family farm, and we can recover, rest, and rediscover each other. And Layla immediately agrees. Now, when she arrives, however, she realises that the farm is actually more isolated than she had expected, and she spends most days there alone while James goes to work in the nearby town of Bathurst. Soon, she starts to experience some unexplained, potentially supernatural phenomena, and she has to work out, is it her? Is she hallucinating? Is it perhaps something to do with the relationship she's in and why she's been brought to the farm? Or is there another mystery concerning the history of the house itself? I'm so thrilled for readers to discover The Farm. It's a timely look at women and their bodies, our level of autonomy over them, and it asks questions about who's really in control of our lives and our fertility. I hope women get excited to read this. I hope that it is suspenseful and that there's twists and turns that you'll enjoy. And if you read The Farm, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy it.
So can you explain, for those people that don't know about middle grade, what that is? Because I love middle grade too, and I write middle grade myself, sort of what that category is.
Yeah. I think when I was a kid, in between when I wrote that story that got deleted, and all those many years later, I kind of went from reading Teen Power Inc., Emily Rodda's Teen Power Inc., which and Rowan of Rin, which would be middle grade, like to Robin Hobb. Like, and there's nothing in between. There wasn't a lot in between. There wasn't a lot to kind of read. So I think, and definitely not a lot of Australian literature. So it's really exciting now that kids who are between that 8 to 12 kind of age bracket, there's so much, so much to read. And so we're doing well. And that's what Love Oz MG is really about, is celebrating and championing Australian authors of middle grade fiction. So I mentioned the age range. It's 8 to 12, somewhere in between there. It's readers who like their stories pacey, so they tend to be page turners. There doesn't tend to be kind of a lot of, there's all those there's those lines. There's plenty of lines, so we're not going into anything graphic in terms of violence or sex or horror or whatever. Another rule is that there's a happy ending, or that there's some kind of hope at the end, even if it's a bittersweet kind of ending. I think it's exciting. Look, I'm an adult, and I find it really difficult to read adult literature because it moves so slowly after you are kind of like, I write middle grade love. That's my favorite age group to write for. It's not really a genre. There's every kind of genre in middle grade. There's graphic novels in middle grade. It's really just about that age. It's about capturing the attention, keeping the momentum of kids, like until they get to YA. Like between their kind of picture book and early readers and junior fiction, like we lose them because there's TV and there's friends and there's a whole huge big world of stuff that, you know, unless we're making books that they want to read, then we lose readers there and they never come back.
Yeah.
Or they wait to their 30s.
Yes. Yeah.
And even, but I don't think that's normal. I think I'm lucky. I'm a lucky person who kind of like stopped reading after high school and didn't start reading again until I was almost 30. So,
yeah, certainly not uncommon.
It's kind of like there's a black hole. I don't know what happened in that time of my life. I don't think I read a single book. So it's really to me, like imagine if I'd kept reading that whole time.
Yeah.
Because that's like I'll read a Catherine Rundell story or a Jessica Townsend story or Samantha Ellen Bound story, and I will be like, oh yeah, that is I'm invested in that story world, and I will want to write. You know, that the reading and writing is so connected to me. If I'm reading something I'm not into, then I will also be having a writing slump. It's like
I get that too.
Do you?
Yeah, it affects what you're writing. Yeah, 100%.
Do you have a go-to, like if you need to get in a writing mood, do you have a go-to author to read?
Oh, no, I don't really. I just make sure that what I'm reading within the stack that I have beside my bed is, I think, in line with what I'm writing. I want to get into that vibe. And because I'm the same, I do read adult through to, you know, junior fiction. So sometimes have to calm down on the adult if I'm writing something. But I think it's also you know, interesting story on that. I just came back from Writers on the Reef residency last week, and I was the only kidlit author there, and I was working on something that was well, I thought it was middle grade, and it might still be middle grade, but there were 3 poets on the residency with us, and an adult literary fiction author. And I don't know, but I think just being around them as well, just my writing was more it was more poetic. I can't even explain it. I don't know why. I think I just felt that, I don't know, I just kind of sucked up the vibe of everyone around me and just wrote it. And it was really lovely actually to get back into that space. So so it's everything. Hey, it's probably a little bit of your surroundings as well as what you're reading.
Yeah, well, there you go. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so they, you know, but I've been writing middle grade for a long time, obviously. But she's finally in the middle grade, you know, age bracket, right down the bottom of it. So I've got this amazing bookshelf, and many stacks of books throughout my house, and many middle grade stories. And there's definitely some though that I think are, you know, 10 plus. So she can't read those yet. But she's funny. Like she's read Remy Lai's ghost book a lot of times under her covers. She's not allowed to read that one yet. And she's read it read it so many times. I know she has, and she keeps asking me, and I said, well, you know, you're not allowed to, but also you have read it. And she says, yeah, but I want to read it like in daylight.
When I'm not hiding from you, Mum.
Yeah, she's the rat bag. Look, she's one of those kids who stays up way too late reading, but as if I just can't be mad.
No, you can't. No, it's awesome. It's incredible. I have one of them, and I have one that isn't, but, you know, I'll take one. That's the best I can do.
Tina, I have a child who likes nonfiction. I just don't know what to do.
Me too. I actually do also. That's it. I have one who reads, who's 11 and reading young adult now, like depending on what it is, and one who's just reading books about bugs and things. And I have to say, look, you can't, you know, it is a different vibe reading, you know, stats and figures as a bedtime story, but, you know, if that's what entertains them, it's still reading. It's definitely still reading.
Oh, of course it is. It's definitely still reading, but it's certainly harder for me as the storyteller.
I know. I try to be interested, but, you know, and that's the other thing I want to talk to you about. And this is where I guess it's so important with that crossover and getting kids into reading stories and just books in general is graphic novels. You know a little bit about them, don't you, Bethany?
I like them. I like
you like them a little bit. You like them so much that you just started your own publishing press, Perenti Press. And
Yeah.
can you explain for people who don't understand what graphic novels are, because they're not new, they have been around for a little while, but they're certainly gaining momentum now, and a little bit about what they are, where they sort of sit on the shelf. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I grew up reading comics, which aren't quite the same. Comics tend to be like serialized. Both in the newspaper, I read them like little tiny line by line weekly snippets. What's going to happen to Calvin and Hobbes? Although I think I always thought that one was boring. My grandparents bought all the Phantom comics and the Archie Digest comics. So that's what I kind of grew up on. I read lots of Tintin and I read lots of Asterix and Obelix. So, how good is that Asterix and Obelix
Yeah.
television adaptation? It's so good. Everyone should go and watch that. Anyway, but graphic novels kind of like, from that same world in terms of visual storytelling, in terms of telling the story through panels, with words and text. But a graphic novel tends to be a standalone, fully self-contained story. And there's lots of interesting and very cool formats that you can find a graphic novel. They might have mostly paneled illustrations, but then they might have like beautiful full spread. We're going to slow down and feel something at this part of the story, spreads, and they come in picture book format, and they are made for adults as well. So and everything in between. And I think they are kind of so popular because of that. They're quite pacey. You can see the action on the page. They're like, if you are not watching the TV, maybe the closest thing, if you have to read a book, Mum, then
they're full color usually too, aren't they?
Well, they can be. They're quite
Yeah.
expensive, and I think quite expensive, and therefore there's a risk associated with going into publishing graphic novels. Who'd do that? What maniacs? But yes, certainly Perenti Press plans to make full color graphic novels for children at this stage as well. So I think people are really excited. We haven't even made any books yet. We've announced some incredible creators, but people are already excited. And we've already kind of like found great success in terms of people who want to support us to get those stories out there. So she says very diplomatically, not spilling any secrets.
But you can check out Perenti Press website
or
the Instagram, and that will give you a little bit of a clue into who's currently.
Well, our first titles are coming next year. About the middle of next year, we'll have some books on the shelves. So
it's exciting. Exciting.
And we're working with all Australian creators. We're working with lots of author illustrators, which is pretty special because, the stories have totally come out of their brains and through their fingers and onto the pages. So
that's incredible.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I can't wait. So you are a publisher now, Bethany, and so are you open for pitches? Do you have your own pile, your pile of opportunity?
Pile of opportunity.
What are you going to call it?
I don't know. I'll clearly have to think about that prior to this interview, so that I sound clever. We have got a pitch opportunity at Sketch and Scribe Festival, which is coming up in October. And apart from that, we are running the Parenti Prize at the moment, which is really exciting. It's for authors only, writers only, which is an incredible. It's really hard to get into the market of writing graphic novels if you're not an illustrator. So that's why we're doing this. It's open until the 1st of November. There's lots of genres that you can enter, and nonfiction as well. Clearly, we all know what I feel about that. But I know there are people out there who love nonfiction. So we do have a nonfiction category. And that's for people who can't draw. So you should, I'm really excited about that. Yeah, well, there you go. You should send us a graphic novel, Tina. So it has to be a complete manuscript. We got some more information about that on the website. So at the moment, those two things, the pitch at Sketch and Scribe and the Parenti Prize, are the only way of getting just words in front of us. If you are an author illustrator, We are open for submissions on our website. Under the submissions tab, there's a button that says submit your idea, and you can upload some sample artwork and some sample pages for us. Or if you're just an illustrator and you really, really, really want to illustrate someone else's words, we want to hear from you too. So, and same place.
And are you looking for anything specific? Is there something that like a gap that you're trying to fill, or you're currently open to all suggestions and genres?
Well, yeah, we are open to all the things. I really want to see a mystery, like a super hooky, twisty, surprising mystery.
Mm.
But that's off the record.
No, don't. It's okay. No one's listening. It's all good.
Yeah, but I do though. I just like, how cool would that be? It'd be really cool. We have some amazing Kim DeHaan is making us just the most incredible little early reader graphic novel. I'm super excited about that. We have another junior fiction graphic novel coming from Brent Wilson. And we have, as I'm talking, remembering which ones we've announced. And we have a spectacular YA one coming from Wendy Tyra. I'm really excited about too. So we don't really have a gap in terms of something we don't have. We just want really compelling stories and something that is just begging to be told visually.
Yeah, that's great. And so you say that Pitchett's coming up. Author illustrators can submit online. So what suggestions do you have for people that want to submit or want to pitch? What is do's and don'ts for pitching? What's some good tips and tricks? What's the inside goss?
The inside goss. Yeah. Well, the inside goss. I do have an information session coming up that gives kind of a really comprehensive idea about the things that we like and some things that we don't like, as well as a suggestion for formatting. But honestly, there's not really any rules in terms of how you present it to us. This is kind of a new thing for everyone, really. Like, for all publishers everywhere. Well, probably not. There's probably some overseas who definitely know what they're doing. So it's really just about communicating your strong story, your strong hook, your point of difference, and all those other buzzwords that every publisher tells you when you ask that question, Tina. But I really want to know what the hook is. I like a story that has a strong narrative arc, even if it's nonfiction. Like, I still want to know why we're turning pages and how we're being led through the story. So I think making that really clear. Because I don't like books that you kind of read a chapter and then maybe you don't really care to read anymore.
Yeah, no, that's good tips, and they are tricky things to do, isn't it? Capture people in that first chapter and help them to understand or show them what the character's wants and needs are, and connect with that character. It's actually really tricky. So yeah, it's really good that you're doing that workshop ahead of it, I have to say. And often when you enter, or sometimes when you enter competitions and assessments, the people who are organizing it will offer that sort of workshop, or there'll be online videos on how to do it, to give you some ideas and suggestions, so you're making the most of your entry. And I think that's really important, because I've had the last assessment that I entered, feedback I had from everybody who I had conversations with, the publishers, were, this is great, this is like, you just set it out perfectly. I'm like, I just simply followed the instructions. Like, it's not it wasn't me that came up with it, I just followed the instructions. So when it comes to submissions, check your submissions criteria. Check what the publishers are looking for. Don't submit something they're just not looking for. If they say set it out a particular way, set it out a particular way. They all might have something, a different way that they want it, but just do it. If you have to do it 15 different times, do it 15 different times, because it makes a difference.
Have you heard the podcast, and I'm not going to swear, but the bleep, they don't tell you about writing?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I not to plug another podcast that's not even Australian on your podcast.
No, but we love it too. It's a very
it's so brilliant. I've listened to that for almost as long as I've been writing. So I kind of felt like when it came time for me personally as a writer to submit, I felt like quite equipped. So I would say to people looking ready to query, that's a pretty reasonable resource to go and have a look.
Mhm.
In terms of structuring your query, putting your hook up front, putting your point of difference up front as an author. If you are writing nonfiction, that's another clue. If you're writing nonfiction, we really need to see why you're qualified to tell that story.
Mhm.
If you're writing fiction, it's just got to be strong.
Yeah. And then, so that's the same with the pitches that you were talking about that are coming up. They're in person,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
online.
they're online.
They're online.
That's for Sketch and Scribe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And are they like a 3-minute pitch?
They are, but I think they're on the 1st of September. So
Oh, okay. They're very soon.
you
But
might have
anyway,
to.
in general,
I think they'll
that's
be
okay.
over.
This will be out before
Oh, will
then.
it?
So, you know,
Okay.
if you're participating, it's the same thing, like you said in writing. Make sure you get your hook up front. Do you think,
Yeah.
you know, tips, because those 3 minutes are tricky when you're trying to pitch, trying to get it out there quick. Is it the same thing? Do you think get
Yeah.
your hook out there early?
So tips for that are to talk about your story. I promise you that, like, I will find out your name and I will probably see who you are. So you don't have to spend a lot of time telling me who you are. I think that's reasonably universal. If someone, like, if you have a strong pitch with a publisher, that they can find that out for themselves. But what they can't find out is the story that you haven't published. So I think start with a pithy hook, a really short kind of something special about your story. Not like I did before when you asked me about my story, because I am really bad at 3-minute pitches. Hey, the other thing is, I so don't mind if you read. Like, you know, every time
That's good to know.
I do one of these things, like I will have, because it's not enough time
Mm-mm.
to stumble and
Mm-hmm.
say a silly thing if you're like me, like, oh, sorry, coffee. I haven't had enough of it. And did you know the best coffee comes from, you know?
Yeah. No. Okay, that's good to know, because I think people worry about that. They think they have, I mean, and great if you can memorize it and just, you know, run it all off. But whether someone can memorize their pitch or not is
not the
going to be,
test.
that's not the test.
No.
It's what is your hook. And so if you
Yeah.
have to read, just do yourself a favor and read.
Yeah, I do. I think comps, like comparative titles, are really important. And it's good when they are contemporary as well, because that shows that you are a reader, and that's important to me as a reader. Not just because it shows that you kind of can speak the language that you're trying to speak, but it also tells me that you're part of the community. You know, like, how good is that when you're a creator and you buy other people's books?
Yeah.
Because that's the industry you want to keep alive, you know. So that's
really important information. Good luck, everybody who's pitching next week, or any other pitches up front that in the future. So I have one more question for you, Bethany. You've given us lots of tips and helpful advice, but do you have any other advice for aspiring authors or debut authors on this journey? What's your one biggest tip?
Oh, my biggest one tip is to read.
Yeah.
Which I think I said lots of times throughout this over and over. But yeah, read. And all sorts of things, I guess, but particularly what you want to write. I mean, I think I have a couple of picture books. I find them incredibly difficult to write. But I read picture books all the time. I still read them to my kids. And you know, there's a couple that I love to read, whether I don't know what it is about them. I mean, they're a bit funny, or the rhythm to the story feels nice as you're reading, or you know, there's moments where you can say something in a certain way that will make one of your children respond with laughter, or like give you a cuddle, or whatever the moment is, you know. And those picture books I will keep in a pile by my desk, and sometimes I will read them and then study them. Like, there's only 300 words in there, but I'll type them down into a document and go, what's happening here? How did they do that? And that's a bit easier with picture books than it is with the 50,000 middle grade, or a 70,000 YA, or whatever it is. But it's the same, like, it becomes a language that you learn as you read it. So, and then you can speak it. maybe.
I love that. That's
Mm.
incredible tips.
Hey,
Thank you.
I came into this interview and I had to say something clever, so you could use it as a
Mm.
pull quote. So something's in there, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, there'll be a lot. There'll be a lot because we do like to quote. Oh, Bethany, thank you so much for your time today. You're a very busy lady, so I won't keep you any longer. But this has been so great, and I know that the listeners are going to love this episode. There's so much information, and thank you for sharing.
I'm super excited to chat to you anytime.
Congratulations on Harper Wells, and good luck
Thanks,
with the
Tina.
launch.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Book Deal podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the pod so you can receive updates as soon as our new eps drop. And to keep up to date with what the pod is doing, you can also find us on Instagram.